Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. Esteemed panelists, come on up, take a seat. Let's settle in to talk about technology and marketing and how they are all coming together in a new, wonderful, and interesting way. So, all right, let everyone get up here. Well, hey, everyone. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Thanks, everyone, for hanging around. Excited to talk about marketing and AI and innovations that are happening within the space and what things are being built in order to help hotels market to their guests, create greater outcomes, and really excited to have different perspectives up here to talk about it. So I first thought it would be interesting for each of the panelists to kind of go down, introduce yourself, say what your company is doing, and then spend a minute and talk about how you're using AI today. And we know that AI is very broad, whether you're Klaus and Ideas and you've been using ML for the past 35 years, or you're a new company using generative AI in order to create more cohesive marketing. There's a lot of different approaches that one could take. So really excited to hear what you all are doing, and we'll start a conversation with that. Bill.
So I'm Bill Daviau. I'm the VP of Partnerships for Lighthouse, and I was previously the head of business intelligence. So last year, we embarked on using generative AI to read our dashboards and create AI performance summaries to bring insights and make more clarity out of the data. And then as it relates to marketing, what we're working on, and again, I come from a revenue management background, but it's really breaking down the silos between revenue management, digital marketing, and distribution, also known as retailing or merchandising, and essentially connecting the dots between on-the-books data, forecasting algorithms, and pushing those out to other partners with marketing engines and better optimizing promotions and digital marketing campaigns.
I'm Braeden Flaherty. I'm the global head of hospitality for Aidaptive. Aidaptive is a seed stage startup that is working to democratize ML and artificial intelligence to better deliver personalized experiences and grow conversions for hospitality brands. We're relatively new in our journey, but we are working to deliver those tools for virtually all stages or all scales of company. We're currently working with hospitality providers with anywhere from 35 doors to 1,700 properties. We work across multiple schools of machine learning as well as generative AI with a focus on providing revenue impact to our customers.
Great. Hi, everyone. I'm Stephanie Daniel, co-founder and CEO of Legends. So we transform a traveler's digital footprints, think like photos, social, calendar, into a real-time preference profile. We call it your travel DNA. And the traveler can choose to share that with a brand so that the brand can know them better and personalize across the journey, obviously increasing engagement, conversion, revenue, loyalty, and experience. All the things we're looking to do. Our, fundamental belief is that that data about us represents truly what we like to do. And instead of a brand being stuck with traditional first-party data or third-party data, there's this concept of zero-party data. So I, as a consumer, intentionally share more about myself with the brand. But there's no easy, trusted tools to do that today. So that's what our simple one-click permissioning enables us to do.
Hi everyone, my name is Djordje and I'm a co-founder and CEO of OTA Sync. We are a cloud-based hotel management platform and we are working in 23 global markets, mostly in Europe and Latin America. We offer PMS, channel manager, booking engine, guest experience app and different other technologies. How we utilize our AI in our app in two ways. First one is the communication management, where we, through an API, connect to multiple communication channels, such as directly with the API to Booking.com or with WhatsApp. And we offer our customers to utilize AI to communicate with the guests and upsell services. The second one is reputation management, where our customers can utilize AI in responding to the positive reviews, both on Booking.com and on Google. Thank you.
Yeah, so 5 years ago, anyone want to shout out, what was the zeitgeist, what was the hot technology 5 years ago? Anyone remember? Chatbots? Remember that really hot everyone wanted a chat bot on their website. That was the really hot technology of the time. And AI feels like what's in the zeitgeist right now, and hotels really, really want it. But a lot of them don't really understand it yet. So you all are using AI in different ways. The last panel that had the big chain said ROI isn't something that you should maybe immediately measure. But for companies of different stages selling software into hotels, you have to be able to have some type of measurement, especially from whether it's a marketing perspective or efficacy. So how do you show efficacy when you're talking to hotels about licensing the software? Bill, I know that you all have some really cool generative language capabilities that help convey things to your boss, so maybe saving time for people. But what other metrics can you share? And all of you, what other metrics can you share in wins to show that efficacy, which ultimately help you get more traction?
Yeah, so Lighthouse is pretty much B2B, so we're not dealing with the end consumer. So to your point, it's really all time efficiencies is where we get the ROI. So and I come from a revenue management background, so the first efficiencies was, and again, we're at an AI conference, but let's also be realistic. We're still dealing with spreadsheets and fragmented systems. And so a lot of times it's actually knocking out some of the low-hanging fruit first and automating a lot of the redundant tasks that a revenue manager does. And so that was really taking AI to the next level to automate some of the digging that you have to do into the dashboards and bringing those insights up. And that's honestly, I think where digital marketing is today is kind of where revenue management was 10 years ago. Is revenue managers were doing a decent job. There was data in the PMS, but they were manually extracting it and then manually changing rates. And that's where digital marketing is today. I think the data exists. You've got search demand data in the CRS. So you've got it maybe in third-party tools to look at hotel search data, flight search data. You've got website data, Google Analytics, et cetera. But at the end of the day, when you're doing marketing campaigns, it's still a little clunky, and they're throwing money into different buckets. And so that's where breaking down the silos and pulling all that data together creates significant efficiencies and really saves money from a marketing perspective, where you're not just throwing globs of money at sponsored listings. You're actually doing targeted ads and more targeted campaigns, and you're automating it.
Yeah, and for Aidaptive, I would say we take a very consultative approach with our customers to understand what their business goals are when we get engaged. And so maybe for the smaller organization or the less sophisticated organization, that may just come down to a very simple ROI calculation. If we're deploying predictive personalization, we can run ongoing A/B tests and retain a cohort of users who are not receiving that experience. And we can show measurable difference in things like conversion rate, average order value, customer retention, inquiry rate, conversion on those inquiries, et cetera. When dealing with a more sophisticated organization, if we're talking about somebody who's maybe looking to reduce IT costs, this could be somebody who's, I think we've heard again and again today how fractured the data landscape is. And one of the biggest barriers to embracing AI is getting that data in a place where it can be centralized and analyzed. There's obviously commercial solutions out there like CDPs and large-scale data warehouses, data lakes. Those things can be quite expensive. So one of the offers that we have includes the ability to unify that data, pull it into a dedicated data warehouse for our customers as part of the service, and significantly reduce their IT costs. So, but for us, it comes down to understanding what that challenge is with the organization and tailoring a solution to them.
Yeah. So I guess I didn't answer the question earlier about how we employ AI. If you think about what we do, we have we capture the data, we process the data, we transform it, and then we deliver it as actionable insights to the brand. At every element of that stage of the process, we are able to leverage AI to deliver a better experience and outcome for our brands and ultimately consumers. So as we think about measuring efficacy, really the foundation for us is we can take a brand from having either 0 or maybe 1 piece of relevant data about their customer, maybe their email, to over 100 actionable data fields. So we would know that you love to surf in the morning in Costa Rica. In January for 5 days, your typical spend is X, your booking window is in a split-second instant from the consumer sharing that more data. So there's the number of data fields, there's the time saved in getting to know your customer. which ultimately then speeds up lead qualification and where you should be focusing your resources. And then obviously, ultimately, yeah, there's the ROI kind of conversion, engagement, and A/B testing type approach that you mentioned.
So how we show to our customers the right return on investment is through a couple of examples. The first one is obviously, as we are also B2B, in saving time and automating manual processes inside of the hotel. The second one is in we calculate the increased revenue based on the extra services that are being sold. And the third one is, I will give you an example. So in the last couple of months, while I was traveling a lot, in every hotel I sent some special request, like can they buy me something and leave it in the room before I arrive, because I mostly arrive around midnight or 1 a.m. And an average time for a response is somewhere between 4 and 5 hours. If I was arriving at around 1 a.m., there's no way that I could buy that something additionally for me, so I need to send it at least 2 days before my arrival, and if I don't remember on time, too bad for me. So the third one would be the average response rate and the saving the time that an AI takes to respond to a message from a guest. So that is the third one, and that is basically how we calculate the increased guest satisfaction and experience.
So with having such clear ROIs that could be measured, or efficacy associated with improved efficiency or improved guest experience, there's clearly a desire to be able to move here, but clearly there's things holding us back. We're part of an industry which is notoriously slow for moving and innovating. So what are some of those major challenges that you all are experiencing in getting adoption and ultimately utilization of these tools in order to be able to start seeing these positive outcomes?
Yeah, so for me, I guess a little bit self-serving, but so I'm in a partnership role now, and I think as it relates to marketing, it's extremely complex because the data exists and the engines exist with a lot of different providers. So again, you might have on the books data in the PMS, maybe you have distribution and channel management in the CRS or a channel manager. You've got a forecast that lives in the RMS. Then you have third-party data like events. And then you have these marketing engines, some of which need to be certified by Google, the Googles of the world, and the retargeting ads. So essentially, not one party can do it all. And so I think as an industry, it's a very small industry, and we all overlap in a lot of ways. But the critical thing, as it relates to marketing, is to be cooperative, and everyone work on their strengths and partner. And that's really the only way we can really break down all these silos and do true merchandising that would be personalized for each individual guest.
I guess the first thing I would say is my background in hospitality is centered around alternative accommodations and short-term rentals. So by comparison, traditional hospitality is Silicon Valley fast. But having said that, certainly in addition to the data landscape we talked about, some of the other challenges we face are misunderstandings about infrastructure investment, what is actually required to effectively deploy AI. So when we work with our partners, we try to address that by meeting that customer where they are. Some are going to have the infrastructure to support that to varying degrees. Others are going to need a full service solution that they can just roll out. And so we're able to tailor a solution to them that is compatible with their tech stack without requiring a massive re-architecture or investment in infrastructure. And then I think the other thing that can be a big barrier to successful deployment echoes a little bit of what we heard from Nitin in the last session, and that is managing expectations and delivering something that is going to have faster value. I'm very much aligned with his perspective that hyper-personalization can be a fool's errand in some cases, and that there is much more ROI to be had by following that predictive intent model, understanding how to use first-party data, zero-party data, to better predict intent within that session in real time, as opposed to looking at decades of data for that loyalty member who might be traveling for 10 different reasons in a given time period.
Yeah. Totally agree. I would say from the enterprise perspective, anytime you're touching consumer data, there's the questions of data governance and how we're going to manage that, right? Actually, for us, we can say we're the answer to some of the privacy regulations, but there's still the processes around that. And then I think the other aspect is obviously what we're doing is there's a consumer element, right? There's a consumer permissioning to sharing the data. And so we validated that in our own app and then obviously in some of our first implementations. But that's definitely part of the story and part of the messaging. For example, we've shown that more than 90% of people opt in to create their profile in various implementations. So we use data to show that that's de-risked.
For us, I would say that the main problem would be that a lot of the hotels, even when they are looking to invest in technology, they want to work in the old ways. They want to work with in the old procedures with the new technology. They don't really are looking to change anything significantly. So a lot of our customers and potential customers, when we are talking with them, they express their concerns that for something that is completely irrelevant. For example, they did something in the one way. Can they do it in our technology the same way? They are not looking at our technology as a step forward in automation. They are looking at how they can keep doing what they are currently doing, but just in the new technology.
Yeah, so oftentimes marketing can be outsourced at hotels. And one of the major advantages to utilizing some of these marketing technologies are efficiencies that normally humans would have done, whether it was copywriting or translation services or analyzing data associated with marketing campaigns and comparing that to forecasts. So with so much historically being outsourced, do you see technologies like the ones that you run and others that are being introduced to the market starting to bring some of this back in-house to management companies and ownership groups, those opco, propcos, where they're going to be able to do a lot more themselves as opposed to outsourcing it more? And in doing so, potentially create better profits for their owners.
Yeah, I guess just a quick answer to that would be, when I've outsourced marketing in the past, when I ran a revenue management company, the marketing spend goes way up, obviously. So bringing it in-house probably brings it down, but the difficulty there is the lack of efficiencies and the abilities to do it properly. So that's why we're trying to automate it.
I would say if we're talking about marketing specifically, I tend to agree that the outsourcing approach is going to lead to some increased costs. However, certainly there are cases in other aspects of the business where it's much more effective to pull in an outside organization, an outside agency, and we're talking about the ROI expectations that somebody might have, and we heard earlier that maybe you shouldn't have them for generative AI. I actually would take issue with that. I think that there is some low-hanging fruit for easy ROI with generative AI, depending on how you deploy it and who you're partnered with. And then, yeah, I'll leave it there.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of factors that go into a brand's decision to do it in-house or externally. Cost is obviously a major factor, but there's many others. For us, the way we approach it is our tool can deliver data that can be leveraged either internally or externally. And it's kind of up to the brand and to the best path for them.
I would say that part of it needs to stay outsourced, at least for some hotels that are, for example, not non-branded hotels. And part of it, it's better to keep it in-house or to get it done in-house. Let me give you an example. When was the last time that a non-branded hotel has sent you a happy birthday email? One example, okay. Well, that part, I think, is something that could be done through the tech and could be bring in-house, while the awareness part, the first part when the guest is researching where they should go, should be done outsourced. Why is that? Because the agency will have more knowledge and more experience in finding the right guests. Okay, the cost could be a little bigger, but let's take a look at the return on investment. In that part of the sense, it could make more sense to keep it outsourced.
So Professor Anderson showed a really amazing graph earlier, just looking at the speed of innovation, right? We have accelerated over the past decade, or 15 years, around how quickly we've been able to create transformative technologies. So I'd love to ask the panelists up here, look into that magic 8 ball or look into the future a little bit. what do you think the next 2 years are going to give to us in terms of new technologies? And what does your roadmap look like in terms of what future opportunities look like as it relates to marketing or back-end services? Do you see coming down the pipeline that will be transformative and help hotels continue to progress their objectives?
I guess, I think Lighthouse moves really quickly, but when you're in the day-to-day, sometimes it seems like a grind and doesn't move fast enough. I'm sure anyone in product can relate to that. But with that said, I think they said this on the brand panel, and I was, I'm not an engineer by any means, but I was talking to our CTO and what kind of AI efficiencies he has. And obviously, you can automate a lot of code today using, ChatGPT and other AI models. So I think there's incredible efficiencies there. And so really, like the role of a software engineer has become more of an architect and maybe more of a designer and more engaged in the product itself and thinking long tail than having to actually, churn out code. So I think that's going to have incredible efficiencies. And then where I think the industry is going, again, everyone talks about it, it's obvious, but turning revenue management into a commercial strategy, which is just breaking down the silos and having everything working holistically. So back to the other question of, should you outsource marketing to an agency? I think that's fine. But again, they're going to look at, they're not going to have access to nearly enough data to make really good decisions. So they might show you a strong ROI, but maybe they put marketing spend on over high demand dates, or put kind of through good money at a bad use case.
I think the code automation piece is big. I think it's especially applicable to small to mid-sized businesses that may be subject to less governance, less code control. That's one challenge I've seen with automated code development, is that can often get bogged down with the approval and deployment process. So I think it's actually an advantage to be small in that case. But I think looking at the bigger picture, always difficult to know where the next phase of digital marketing and the internet is going. But I think what we're starting to see is a trend away from the traditional screen. And so embracing things like NLP to allow for interactions on a wide range of devices for a wide range of people with different accessibility needs. We probably all saw the Meta glasses that were released recently. And so as more and more people experience the internet and commerce on different devices and non-traditional devices, again, we've got to meet them where they are. We've got to deliver on the device they're using. And AI, and specifically NLP, can go a long way towards addressing that.
Yeah. I would add, I think we've all been talking about personalization in this industry for a very long time, right? And I think that AI and data are enabling us to maybe finally get to that ideal vision from a consumer perspective and a brand perspective, where owning our data can actually power the best matching possible of the right recommendations or experiences digitally and in real life to the right person, so that we can kind of, why do we all love travel? So that we can have more authentic connection with ourselves, each other, and the world. And that's the mission we have at Legends. And I think, can it happen in 2 years? We'll see. Will it be perfect? But I think innovative brands that can take steps to put that technology in the hands of consumers will be the ones that win.
I think this is a great question. And why is that? So internally, we have been discussing about what should be our next step. What's there on the roadmap? Our industry is not something where we can just say, okay, we can now take a break. We don't need to innovate anything else. We always need to move faster in order to compete on the market. And so we have dissected the guest journey and mapped 36 different steps. And what I think is that in the next couple of years, there will be a lot of the new solutions coming out mostly through an AI. That will be helping bridge all of those steps, all of those 36 steps, just that we have mapped, both from the awareness step to the post-stay step. A lot of those steps are currently not being done through technology, but mostly through the manual labor. And in the post-COVID era, there is a big problem with the workforce, and I think that technology will jump in. We will see how it will look like, but my guess is that who has the money, they will build. Who does not have the money, there will be an open market for startups to innovate.
Yeah, so piggybacking off of that, Larry Ellison recently was quoted saying, it's going to cost $100 billion to train a new frontier model. So there's going to be very few of these, and only the largest companies in the world being able to do it. But do we then believe as a collective community, especially as it pertains to marketing technologies, that based off of these frontier models, we're about to see an explosion of new technologies and innovations built off these with unique value propositions that will be able to create real value within the space and be adopted quickly?
Yeah, I'm not sure, but I think maybe what we'll see are AI algorithms, either the big three, kind of be democratized, where putting an AI on a product isn't going to do a whole lot for you. And I think the true value is the data that you have. That's the real gold. And again, the difficult part about that is breaking down the barriers and finding the right partners and building the walls around your data. That's the true value.
Certainly, I don't have enough information to disagree with Larry Ellison. However, I think that those bleeding edge models are also appropriate and especially valuable in only certain cases. And I think that a lot of businesses, that's just unnecessary. And coming back to leveraging first-party data that you already have, and using that strategically, there are plenty of solutions you can build out of that or leverage. And then be selecting the LLM and latest bleeding edge models as appropriate. But we're already seeing, going back to the curve of innovation, parity with human capabilities on all sorts of things. And so for nobody wants to be called an average business, but for an average business, what is the marginal value of investing in one of these bleeding edge large models?
Yeah, I mean, at a very simplistic level, if you think about AI, okay, there's the chips. Okay, great, that's good now. The models have got to a really good place. They're going to continue to evolve. But do you need the bleeding edge ones to have the impacts that we're talking about? But the third layer of the application layer, right? How do you actually implement it in real world scenarios to have the impact that we all believe it can have? That's where I think the biggest investment, it should be happening and is happening in exciting ways.
So Sam Altman said that with each update of the ChatGPT or in OpenAI, their aim is that each new model needs to be at least 100 times better than the previous one. So the technology is quickly evolving, but in our industry, in hospitality, I think that 90% of the different solutions that will be coming out will either be boring or it won't be at the right time for them. And what I think is, again, yes, I completely agree with everyone, that we need to find the right solution. So that means that we need to search internally in the industry what are the problems that needs to be solved right now, and what are the problems that needs to be solved in the future.
Yeah, so with a few minutes left, let's open it up to the floor, see if anyone has any questions for the panel. Right here, Jason. Yes. Braeden, you got your
Braeden, you had mentioned that you do see some immediate ROI for adapting Gen AI. So for a smaller, non-branded hotel with maybe an in-house marketing team, what are some use cases that you find that could generate the immediate ROI?
Sure. I think a couple examples could be looking to the distribution space and optimizing things like descriptions by channel, understanding how each channel you distribute to has a different audience, and automating, either using NLP or an off-the-shelf LLM, automating creation of alternative descriptions tailored to the audience coming in from each channel. Relatively straightforward, nearly free in a lot of cases, depending on what sort of distribution software you're using. And you should see a measurable uptick in performance on those channels versus your direct. Similarly, things like generative summaries of property information that can be tailored to the individual guest. Again, you can leverage relatively affordable off-the-shelf technology to do that.
Yeah, one really interesting one is I'm looking at a bunch of different hotel booking engines. Many of them don't have translations into different core languages. So one really immediate one that I'm surprised more hotels haven't done, yesterday, is go in. You can, in many of these models, you can say, hey, use the voice of the hotel and translate it to the most common languages that are being searched. This is a really immediate, first of all, you reduce the cost of having natural language translators actually go in and do it, and it's a pretty low lift in terms of effort in order to be able to meet your guests where they are. That opens you up to different markets and be able to really serve your guests in the best possible way.
I think to underscore that, I mean, Booking.com has been using NLP to generate property descriptions since 2008, I want to say, where you're providing key data points about the property, and for a long time you were not able to supply a description to them, and that was so they could translate it into something like 93 languages.
All right, it looks like we're actually out of time, so thank you so much to the panelists, and thank you for the questions. And
Thank you.
Thank you.
thanks, everyone.